For 5 years, I funded her artistic dream, yet she called me a gold digger. Later, I discovered her love for the wealthy was a $170 million scam. We both ended up devastated. I sent my parasitic girlfriend to hell. It was the 3rd year after Aurora and I broke up. She had finally become an internationally renowned artist. In every public interview, she would mention me, calling me a gold digger who abandoned her for $2,000. Her fans were enraged. They launched wave after wave of cyberbullying against me. The diner I had worked so hard to open had its windows smashed. My front door was covered in red spray paint. Even walking down the street, I would inexplicably be covered in dirty water. Everyone said this was the punishment a gold digger deserved. But was that really the truth? I'm grateful he abandoned me at my most difficult time. True desperation inspires the purest creative impulses. It was also because of his departure that I found a soulmate who truly understands me. In a live stream interview, Aurora once again recounted how her first love had abandoned her 3 years ago over $2,000 in the live stream of tens of thousands of viewers. Chat messages. Blind to the truth. Gold digger. Serves you right. I don't want to see people like him alive. He should give his life to truly kind people instead. Agreed with the above. It would be best if all the world's most painful diseases were transferred to him. Do you think this man will come out and force a confrontation in a few days? I felt for Queen Aurora and Mr. Sterling. Damn. Stop talking about it. It's already disgusting. Does anyone have his account? Tag him. I want to curse him to death. Immediately after, messages beneath my account flooded in like a geyser in the dimly lit old block. I sat behind the screen, expressionlessly eating a bowl of freshly made hot noodle soup. It was like self-torture, watching the scrolling chat messages. Today was my birthday, yet the sharp utility knife slowly revealed its deadly glint beneath my trembling thumb. My ex-girlfriend, Aurora, returned to the country a month ago. She achieved fame and success, returning with her fiancé, a wealthy scion, in an extremely high-profile manner. 3 years apart, I had completely disappeared from her world, silent as an ordinary corpse. Whether she was doing well or not, I never cared. I had thought that she and I could continue to live peacefully, with no further interaction. I never expected, however, over the past month, whenever Aurora was interviewed by any media outlets, she would intentionally or unintentionally bring up the past of our breakup. Each time she brought it up, it triggered a massive wave of public opinion. What followed was that every trace of my presence online was completely exposed by everyone. I became the blind to the truth, greedy and despicable gold digger in everyone's mouths. My apartment door was covered in red spray paint, and the landlord kicked me out that very night. The diner I had worked so hard to build was overwhelmed with negative reviews. Every day, officials from relevant departments showed up, saying they had received anonymous tips, and that I needed to cooperate with their investigation. My shop window was smashed with a brick, and though I reported it to the police and they caught the person, that person, however, exchanged all the window's compensation into $10 bills, and then slapped them, one by one, onto my face. As they threw them, they laughed arrogantly. Don't men like you just love being hit with money? With reddened eyes, I got into a physical altercation with that person, but because of mutual combat, we were both taken to the police station by the police. When I returned, I found that the security camera outside my small shop had been deliberately destroyed. On the tightly closed metal security gate, someone had sprayed 2 large characters from top to bottom with a colored spray paint can. Scumbag. This incident quickly escalated online. Some cheered on, while others questioned if the netizens' actions were excessive. Meanwhile, Aurora, the other party involved, found the person who smashed my glass door. She returned the money he had compensated me with, untouched, back to him. Then, with a face full of sincerity, she apologized to the public. She said, "I don't want my affairs to affect everyone's normal lives." What she said was self-righteous, but in reality, she conveyed a message to everyone. Go ahead and take full revenge on that man. You won't have to pay any price. As long as you could vent your frustrations on that man at will, I will be grateful to you. Suddenly, I became a pariah. My small shop was forced to close, and no one in the city was willing to rent a place to me anymore. Dragging my luggage down the street, a basin of dirty water with vegetable leaves would be thrown directly at me. I could only flee, disheveled and frantic, to the old district on the city outskirts. I moved into a tenement building that seemed abandoned by time. Secluding myself in darkness all day, I hid. But the online buzz continued. they stood on the moral high ground, constantly attacking me. An ungrateful gold digger was meant to be severely trampled into the mud. I was like a solitary boat adrift, caught in a maelstrom of public opinion, unable to break free, unable to escape, yet unable to die. But was that truly the case? Aurora and I started dating in our freshman year of high school. She said her dream was to become an artist like Van Gogh. She also said that if she ever died in the pursuit of her art, her surviving works would surely achieve great renown. At that time, I would be the sole heir to those works, becoming the wealthiest and happiest man in the world. I said, with me, you'll become an artist. With you, I'll be the happiest man in the world. For Aurora's dream, after graduation, defying our family's objections, we resolutely stayed in Coastal Haven, where there were more opportunities. Suddenly, we cut off all our financial sources. Yet Aurora set her sights on a high-rise building in the downtown area, in the best location. She said only such a work environment could befit her artwork. Everything was worth it for the pursuit of art. The young me held my meager savings, gritting my teeth. I still rented that studio for her, with a monthly rent of $15,000. To afford this studio and our living expenses, I had to give up jobs that matched my major but required extensive experience. During the day, I showed properties as a real estate agent. In the evenings, I set up a street stall selling stir-fried noodles and grilled squid. I worked 16 hours a day, like a spinning top, constantly on the move. Because back then, I was very naive. I always thought that, when I opened my eyes the next day, I would see Aurora's artwork in world-class art galleries. All the hardships I endured were worth it. In those first few months, Aurora truly felt for me. She would pick open the blisters on my feet under the lights, and hold my hands, splattered with hot oil, blowing on them while wiping away tears. She was frustrated. She was confused. She said she was the most useless person in the world. I didn't answer. I just pulled her into my arms, and whispered words of comfort. But day after day, year after year, time flew by. It was as if something had obscured Aurora's eyes. She couldn't see my body, growing thinner each day from overwork, nor could she see that our lives were struggling financially, barely making ends meet everywhere. She was completely immersed in her own artistic world. I couldn't bring up any topics related to daily life to her, such as grocery prices, utility bills, sales on eggs. She said that as an artist, she had to constantly keep her mind pure and untainted. Such mundane and common topics would only make her lose inspiration. I couldn't inquire about the progress of her creations. Even if she sat in her studio for a week without picking up a brush, I couldn't say a word. She said she wasn't creating common, crude commercial doodles. She was making true works of art, and all artworks required lengthy contemplation. She brazenly yelled at me, saying that because of my ignorant interference, she had now lost all inspiration. At that moment, I truly felt I was wrong. I fell into deep self-doubt, only able to compensate by desperately trying to satisfy her. One time, Aurora said she had an intense creative burst and ate and lived in her studio. I desperately squeezed every bit of my already limited rest time, finally making time to take care of her 3 meals a day. During that period, I rushed around happily. I always felt that Aurora was about to succeed, on the verge of success. In truth, during this long period of support, my expectations for Aurora had long dwindled. My definition of her success had fallen from becoming a world-class artist to an ordinary painter who could sell works, and then to simply a partner who would talk to me. The naive adoration of my youth had long been worn away by the heavy burdens of life. I had given too much, unwilling to lose everything. I could only continuously brainwash myself. Even if this person could only provide me with some emotional support, that would be enough. During the period when Aurora was in an intense creative burst, she couldn't spare the energy to eat, so I had to squat beside her, feeding her bite by bite. She freely splattered expensive paints on large canvases spread across the floor, sometimes stepping on them with her feet, sometimes patting them with her hands. Finally, on a gloomy dawn, Aurora personally set fire to the artwork she had worked on for nearly a month in her art studio. The thick smoke from the burning canvas triggered the high-rise building's sprinkler system. I, who had stayed with Aurora all night, was curled up on the ground, just about to fall asleep, when the cold water pouring down jolted me awake. I desperately tried to salvage the computers, paints, canvases, and other items in the studio. Aurora, however, stood beneath the sprinkler system, laughing maniacally like a madwoman. I apologized to the building manager, to the neighboring offices, and to the tenants downstairs, after paying for the damages. I wearily walked back to the art studio. The first thing I saw was Aurora, sound asleep in the only clean corner of the art studio. I wanted to wake her, but for some reason, I gave up, disheartened. I had no money to hire cleaners, so I stubbornly knelt on the floor, wiping away every drop throughout the night. When Aurora woke up, she saw my tired and pale face, briefly hugged me, and said, "It was hard work, but for art, everything is worth it." After that time, Aurora once again entered a long period of lethargy. She spent her days idly staring in the art studio, easily angered like a firecracker. Each time she roared at me, it was like an eraser, slowly wiping away the sincere and passionate young woman from my mind. That Christmas was the coldest day of the year. The storefront organized a flyer distribution task. I spent the entire day handing out flyers in a heavy mascot costume. When I returned home, I was greeted by a crystal Christmas tree adorned with decorations. Aurora blinked, asking innocently, "Does it look nice?" Looking at the crystal apple on the Christmas tree reflecting a halo of light, my heart sank, and I blurted out, "How much does this thing cost?" $2,000, Aurora said, her eyes full of joy, as she caressed the Star of Bethlehem atop the Christmas tree, in high spirits. "Ethan, don't you think it's beautiful?" $2,000. A sharp bitterness surged in my throat. I pulled out my phone. Sure enough, I saw the bank transfer notification. 2 hours ago. $2,000 spent. Current card balance, $0.84. These $2,000 were the only remaining funds for her and me this month. Without these $2,000, we couldn't even buy food for the next day. I avoided Aurora's expectant gaze and coolly told her, "Aurora, return this thing." "Why?" Aurora suddenly became agitated. "Because we have no money left. We need these $2,000 for food." My tone was flat. I simply revealed the truth I had hidden for 5 years to Aurora. "Money, money, money. Is that all you think about?" Aurora fumed, stomping her foot, roaring at me as usual. "Look at yourself now. So materialistic and vulgar, so common and crude. Are you still the same person you used to be?" Looking at Aurora's contemptuous face, I suddenly felt dazed. Had this person forgotten? Her brightly lit office, the paints freely splattered on the floor, the heavy and large plaster models, and the daily meals that were never the same, all of it was sustained by my blood and sweat. The reason she could comfortably be a pure and untainted artist was because I bore all the troubles for her behind the scenes. Now, she called me materialistic and vulgar, common and crude. I suddenly felt pitifully foolish. I had endured until today on burning love, but how did I still end up in such a predicament? My patience vanished, and so did my love. I picked up the Christmas ornament tree and said coldly, "If you are not going, I'll go myself." Aurora spread her arms, blocking my way. "You wouldn't dare." I ignored her, and walked straight ahead. As I brushed past her, Aurora suddenly snatched the crystal Christmas tree from my arms, then she raised it high and smashed it violently onto the floor. "Let me tell you, Ethan, I'd rather destroy something I cherish than let you take it away." Crystalline shards scattered everywhere, and I had a sudden moment of clarity. That night, I didn't say another word to Aurora. Instead, after she fell asleep, I packed all my belongings, and blocked all her contact information. I completely exited that cramped rented room, and also completely exited Aurora's life. Aurora's interview ended. The lingering echo of insults continued. I finished the last bite of my simple birthday meal, and pressed the cool, sharp utility knife against my slender, pale wrist. After leaving Aurora, I stumbled through 3 years alone. I finally transformed my late-night snack stall into a storefront. I was still busy every day, but each day was filled with hope. It was then that I realized I could live such a good life. A month ago, I was still planning to expand my shop by the end of the year, but now, I was hiding in a corner of the city, like a rat avoiding the light, preparing to end my life. Everyone said the best way to combat cyberbullying was to cut off all ties with the outside world, and quietly wait for the buzz to fade. But I was truly too tired. Even if the buzz faded, I wouldn't be able to face life as I had before. I didn't want to use death to coerce anyone. I was simply too tired. The journey from having nothing to having nothing again, it was truly exhausting. Starting over again, I couldn't do it. It was truly laughable to think about. Why did everyone in the world think I was a gold digger? If I truly worshipped money that much, then why wouldn't I have sought out a wealthy person from the start? instead of choosing Aurora, who had nothing. The utility knife slowly cut deeper and deeper, the superficial skin broke, and tiny streams of blood trickled down. The sharp pain was my brain's signal to stop me from harming myself further. I bit my lip hard, slowly increasing the pressure on my hand. I was an orphan. Aunt Carol, who had raised me since childhood, had also severed ties with me because of Aurora, and we no longer had any contact. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, on the last day of my life, I wouldn't even have a relative to say goodbye to. How pathetic was I? I took a deep breath, my eyes fixed on the phone in front of me, which was still constantly flashing with messages. It turned out that the process of dying was so painful, perhaps only these negative comments could push me further. Suddenly, an email notification popped up, a bright yellow icon, conspicuous and striking among the abusive messages. Subconsciously, I loosened my grip on the knife and tapped the email open, followed by a long moment of stunned silence. Dear Mr. Guan, congratulations on passing the preliminary selection for the Starlight Competition International Painting Competition. Please submit your semifinal entry by date, month, X023. The theme of your work is fervor. The Starlight Competition. It began in X932. It has a history of over 100 years to date. It is the largest and most authoritative painting competition worldwide, held every 3 years. It aims to provide a fair platform for all young painters around the world to showcase their talent. After 3 rounds of rigorous selection, 5 artworks are finally chosen from tens of thousands of submissions to be exhibited on a global tour, and the names of the authors of these works will become household names, known to all. Aurora and I studied the same major in college. From high school, we were attracted to each other because of shared interests. I also once dreamed of becoming an artist admired by all, but because I loved Aurora, I gave my dream to her. Without Aurora, I found my dream again. 3 months ago, the Starlight Competition opened its submission platform, and I also submitted my work. In truth, I didn't hold much hope for passing this preliminary selection. Aurora's academic performance in college was much better than mine. She had submitted works to the Starlight Competition twice, both times disappearing without a trace. I didn't believe my own skill could stand out among a semifinal acceptance rate of hundreds to 1. When I recovered from the shock, the blood flowing from my wrist had already pooled into a small puddle on the table. I pressed a large amount of tissues onto the wound and rushed out the door to find a clinic for bandaging. Fate, at times, truly resembles a novel with an unknown ending. Dramatic ups and downs played out every day. You never knew what the next page would reveal. This email inviting me to the semifinals felt like a birthday gift sent to me by fate. Fate said I shouldn't die. After getting my wrist bandaged at the clinic, I bought myself a big birthday cake. Returning home, I uncharacteristically turned on all the lights I could in the room. In that instant, everything became clear. It turned out what I feared wasn't public opinion, but a reason to keep fighting for life. The Starlight Competition's semifinal adopted an open competition format. Contestants presented their works on site and explained their concepts, and then judges gave on-the-spot critiques and scores. The final round shortlists were announced on site. After contestants submitted their works and they were simply categorized, they would receive another invitation letter notifying them of the specific attendance time and location. Coincidentally, this year's Starlight Competition North American Division semifinal venue was in Coastal Haven's Central Tower. During my prolonged silence, online public opinion gradually faded, and people moved on to new gossip. Only the itch of fresh granulation tissue on my wrist reminded me of what I had endured during those dark days. On the day of the semifinal, the sun was bright. I, along with all the semifinal contestants, received our entry number tags, and queued to enter amidst the medias cameras and microphones. As the venue doors slowly opened, I immediately spotted Aurora, radiant and dazzling, seated on the judging panel. The sudden shock made me stumble, nearly bumping into the back of the contestant in front of me. It was the quick-witted girl behind me who steadied me, preventing my fall. Even though I quickly adjusted my stride, the ripple in the line still drew the attention of the judging panel. Our eyes met, and Aurora casually curved the corner of her mouth at me. Indeed, money changes people. This woman, who once claimed to be above worldly concerns, was now draped in exaggerated designer brands from head to toe. Indeed, it was only natural for Aurora to be seated on the Starlight Competition's judging panel, as she was currently the only top artist of her generation, whose auctioned works fetched billions, and she was also the fiancée of Julian Sterling, the eldest son of the Leung Group. At this point, I no longer had the energy to think about anything else. Anyway, The Starlight competition wasn't organized by the Leung family, and Aurora wasn't the only judge on the panel. The rules for the Starlight competition semi-final were quite simple, with 8 judges in total. An average score of over 90 was enough to successfully advance to the final round. After I finished presenting my concept and creative approach for the artwork on stage, the score indicators on the judging panel lit up one after another. Each time a lights indicator lit up, I silently counted in my mind. The average score from the first 7 judges had already reached 91. Only Aurora, seated in the very center, had yet to give her score. Seeing the awkward silence, the host had to smooth things over, saying, "I wonder what insights Ms. Xiao has on this contestant's work. This contestant's work is indeed remarkable, but as far as I know, her reverence for art is still questionable," Aurora said, raising an eyebrow at me, then shaking her head with extreme regret while folding her arms. If an artist's hands are stained with greed, then their work is just as disgusting. As soon as she spoke, a considerable stir arose among the contestants, and media outlets personnel tracking the event in the audience. Some among them recognized me, exchanged glances, and whispered discussions amidst the commotion. "Look, isn't that the gold digger, who was completely cyberbullied a while ago? Why is he here? He's not chasing Ms. Xiao, is he? Oh my god, he's so disgusting. But this painting is really good. The concept and composition are very clever. Easily one of the best in our semi-final group. Yes, I always felt he was different from what we imagined." Standing on stage, I finally heard different voices mixed in with the negative comments from the audience. I suddenly felt like crying. It turned out they also had judgment, and could truly see a different side of me. Aurora seemed to find these voices too harsh, and impatiently slapped the table. The host immediately understood, and politely said, "Everyone, please keep the venue quiet." The tide-like murmur of discussion in the venue gradually subsided, and Aurora cleared her throat before continuing, "If everyone, when creating, first thinks about how to monetize their work, then the work will only cater to popular tastes, and how can true beauty be created?" Aurora paused, then continued, "So you should kneel and apologize to your artwork." Deeply regretting that they were born from the hands of a mediocre person, I stood motionless on stage, my fists tightly clenched. I wanted to retort, but I didn't want to truly tarnish my work due to a momentary impulse. The commotion in the audience completely stopped. It seemed everyone was eagerly awaiting my next move. I coldly stared at Aurora on the judging panel, 2 forces within me constantly wrestling. Should I rush to the front of the stage and slap Aurora across the face, or sacrifice my dignity for this hard-won opportunity? Dignity or future? Future or dignity? My future was the turning point that saved me from the brink of death. My dignity was the principle I had always believed in. How should I choose between the two? I was a disgusting, lowly gold digger. If I spoke up now to retort, the public opinion that had finally dissipated would once again engulf me. In the midst of extreme indecision, a pleasant female voice chimed in, "Excuse me, I'd like to interrupt. This is the Starlight competition semi-final venue, not a platform for personal vendetta." The person who spoke was named Skylar. She held her first solo exhibition at 8, studied abroad at 12, and became the youngest Starlight competition champion in history at 16. She was, in the true sense, a once-in-a-century prodigy in painting. "Skylar, what do you mean by that?" Aurora retorted coldly, "Are you saying that contestants in the Starlight competition don't need to be judged on their character?" A contestant's character is indeed important, but the Starlight competition's century-long motto has always been fairness. Even if Mr. Guan's character were truly terrible, he fairly participated in the semi-finals based on his work, Skylar said, curving her lips into a faint smile. "Unlike some people, who only sit here because of their connection to the Leung family, Skylar." Aurora's temper had always been like this. Impatient. "Do you know the transaction price of my last work at the Art Center? Ms. Xiao, that's not right. How can the value of art be measured by money? How could you bear to let your art be tainted by greed?" Skylar, without changing expression, throwing Aurora's words, which she had used to attack me, right back at her. "You should kneel now and apologize to your artwork." The sound system connected to the microphone on stage suddenly let out an explosive clang. Because Aurora had flipped the table, the Starlight competition semi-final ended. My score was invalidated on the spot because Aurora refused to grade me. However, the day's events continued to escalate after being reported by media outlets. This time, the online attacks against me dwindled. while the doubts about Aurora grew louder. Aura Flipitable even became a trending topic on social media platforms for a time. However, it was quickly removed by the Liang family's PR team, although I lost the opportunity to participate in the Starlight competition finals after this incident. The cloud hanging over me completely dissipated after I left the venue that day. I moved out of the tenement building and returned to my painstakingly managed diner, working from dawn till dusk, constantly busy. It turned out that I was never as worthless as the cyberbullying perpetrators claimed. It turned out that online voices could indeed be manipulated. The day after selling out my inventory early, I bought a few more cans of spray paint, preparing to properly deal with the previously vandalized metal security gate. Just as I was shaking the spray paint can, ready to change colors, I suddenly heard someone call out from behind me, "Hello, are you Mr. Guan?" I turned around and found Skylar standing behind me, my face lighting up with surprise. "Skylar, what brings you here? I couldn't stay at the venue last time, so I didn't get to thank you in person." I formally turned around, placed the spray paint can on the ground, and bowed deeply to her, saying, "Skylar, thank you, it's nothing. I was just speaking the truth that day," Skylar said, waving her hand at me. "I'm here today on behalf of the Starlight competition to inform you that after discussions with the organizers, we believe you are indeed a talent with potential, so you can now prepare for the final selection 2 months from now." The sudden surprise left me at a loss for words. I could only keep bowing and thanking her. "You don't need to thank me like this. Your painting truly has spirit," Skylar said, looking up. Through the still wet spray paint behind me, she could vaguely make out the rather glaring 2 words, "Scumbag, I've seen the news about you before," Skylar said, tilting her head toward me, sincerely remarking, "I think you are very strong." "No, I'm not strong," I shook my head, openly showing her my scar. If I hadn't received that email for the semifinals that day, I might truly not have survived. After speaking, I picked up the spray paint can from the ground and continued the unfinished graffiti. Skylar also picked up a can from the ground and asked with a smile, "You don't mind, do you?" I nodded, indicating that I didn't mind. Then, Skylar and I, each with a can, continuously painted on the huge metal security gate. She followed my brushstrokes, and I followed her lines, choosing colors, changing colors. There was no communication between us. The entire time, everything was done with unspoken understanding. About 20 minutes later, the final stroke was complete. A truly magnificent artwork was strikingly displayed on the huge metal security gate. Sunset, palm trees, beach, birds flying in the distance. Skylar and I exchanged glances and said in unison, "How did you know I wanted to paint this?" After speaking, we both laughed at the same time. I don't know why, but Skylar and I had only met twice up to that day, yet, when painting, there was an indescribable chemistry between us. This chemistry was something I never even had with Aurora during the years we were most in love. "Skylar, thank you," I said sincerely. "It's nothing, I'm just like this. When I see someone pick up a paintbrush, I can't help myself," Skylar said, pointing to the sign of my diner. "If you insist on thanking me, then make me something to eat." Since the diner's inventory was sold out for the day, I could only rustle up some homemade dumplings from the kitchen refrigerator that I had previously prepared and packaged. We sat facing each other, each with a bowl. The filling was the most common corn and pork. Aurora and I used to love eating them. After breaking up with Aurora, it had been a very long time since I had made homemade dumplings for 2. The small shop was too quiet with just the 2 of us. I turned on the TV hanging high in the corner of the shop. The news channel was once again broadcasting news about Aurora. An oil painting of a white swan, created by Aurora 3 days ago, had a transaction price of $170 million, once again setting the fastest record for an oil painting from completion to sale. Skylar glanced up. "Actually, your work has more spirit than Aurora's." "Thank you," I said, shaking my head with a smile. I never thought a genius painter like Skylar would flatter someone. "I don't flatter people, I only tell the truth," Skylar said, leaning back comfortably against the chair. "The quality of an artwork sometimes has little to do with its value. The value of some works is artificially manipulated." I turned my head and looked at the artwork being displayed on the TV. Aurora is red hot right now. Some collectors probably just follow the trend. That's not what I mean. Every artwork, once created, hopes to find someone who truly appreciates it. The value given to it by an appreciative person is what it deserves. but some people buy these works. Skylar pulled a tissue from the tissue box, turning it over to show its blank surfaces. Even if there's nothing drawn on this paper, some people will still be willing to pay for it. Skylar spoke cryptically, and I was utterly confused. Just as I was about to press for more, Skylar interrupted. "It's nothing, I just think your talent shouldn't stop here." Skylar said, "If you don't mind, I can help you with your final round submission." I couldn't have asked for a better offer than Skylar's. Every day after closing the shop, I would rush to Skylar's art studio in downtown Coastal Haven. Skylar taught me with meticulous detail, from color mixing to brush control, from illusion to light and shadow. In just half a month, I gained more than I had in several years of previous art classes. The day I was doing the final cleaning in the shop, the unlocked glass door was pushed open. "Excuse me, we are closing up," I said, tilting my head toward the open door. I saw Aurora, radiating an air of nobility, standing at my doorway with her arms crossed. Suppressing the surprise in my heart, I put down the rag and met her gaze. "May I help you? You want to participate in the Starlight competition finals, so why didn't you come to me? If you just ask, I can help boost your score. There's no need to go to Skylar." Aurora spoke directly, but her question was baffling. I frowned, asking back, "What did you say?" "There are 2 million on this card. Come with me," Aurora said, pulling a shimmering bank card from her wallet and slamming it onto my table. I helplessly rubbed my forehead. "I'm sorry, Ms. Shao, but I'm closing up. Could you please leave?" 2 million isn't enough, is it? "Fine," Aurora said, pulling cards out of her wallet one by one. "Is this enough? Is all this enough? Tell me, is it enough?" Aurora emptied her wallet and suddenly grabbed my shoulder. "Ethan, look closely. I have money now. I have money. Look closely. I have money now. I have money." I coldly glanced at the cards scattered across the table, then forcibly pulled my shoulder free from Aurora's grasp. Crazy, crazy. You call me crazy?" Aurora seemed unable to believe her ears, yet she kept grabbing the credit cards from the table and stuffing them into my arms. "Here, take the money. Go buy whatever you want. Buy anything. Food, drinks, new clothes, a new computer, a house, a car, anything." A dozen or so credit cards slid from my arms. Their colorful hues strikingly resembled the shattered crystal Christmas tree that had scattered across the floor on that cold night 3 years ago. A sharp crack. The long overdue slap finally landed on Aurora's face. "Get a grip. You look disgusting right now. Ethan, look again. Am I really not what you want now?" Aurora placed her hand on my shoulder again, her moist eyes seeming to search my face for a hint of hesitation. "I have everything now. Everything you once dreamed of has come true. Don't you regret it? Do you truly not regret it?" "Regret it? How could I? If I had clung to that relationship under those circumstances back then on Christmas night, it wouldn't have been the little match girl who died of poverty and illness, but me. When I was with Aurora, that endless suffering made me despair. It was a despair that even the purest love couldn't withstand." Solemnly and slowly, I shook my head at Aurora, answering with absolute clarity, "No, no regrets." The light in Aurora's eyes instantly dimmed. With half her face swollen, she gave a weak, bitter smile. "As expected, I am still too late. As expected, there's no going back." Aurora left, but her valuable leather wallet and the credit cards scattered across the floor were left behind. I gathered the items and chased after her, but Aurora was already gone from outside the door. After 3 years, meeting Aurora alone again, my feelings were undeniably complex. After considering countless ways to return it, I decided to deliver the tided wallet myself. Aurora's studio in Coastal Haven was located at the other end of the city. It took 2 long subway rides, plus a short taxi trip to reach my destination. Aurora's current studio was a standalone office building, nestled against a mountain and by water. The environment was serene. I held the wallet and explained my purpose to the security guard, repeatedly stating that simply leaving the item at the front desk for registration would suffice. The security guard briefly communicated internally using his walkie-talkie, then gestured for me to enter. Though he advised me to be quick, I nodded, promising not to cause him any trouble. Carrying the wallet, I walked towards the office building's wide-open main entrance. From a distance, I saw a man and a woman behind the garden's fountain, seemingly engaged in an argument. I passed them in their blind spot. A harsh female voice drifted into my ears. "Don't forget, whose help did you get to reach this position today?" Without the Sterling family, you'd be worse than a stray dog on the street. I quickened my pace, not lingering. I took the wallet directly to the front desk, explained the situation, and began signing in on the front desk's logbook. Once registered, I turned and saw Aurora walking directly towards me. Ethan, why are you here? I carefully observed Aurora's attire. She was, in fact, the woman I had just seen by the fountain. You left your wallet at my place last time, so I brought it back to you. Thank you. And Aurora's gaze was still dim, but her tone was much calmer. I am sorry I startled you last night. It's okay. It's all in the past, I said. If there's nothing else, I'll be going now. Wait. Aurora called out to me, urgently. She looked at my eyes, about to speak but hesitating, and after a long moment, she gave up. Never mind. It's nothing. I just wanted to tell you that you can learn a lot from Skylar. Her talents are genuine. I nodded. My heart, uncharacteristically, ached for her once more. Aurora, tell me, what's really wrong with you? Nothing, Aurora said, turning her back. You should leave quickly. This place is remote, and I don't have a car to take you back. The days of preparation were peaceful, yet they always managed to stir up trouble unexpectedly. With only a week left until the final submission deadline, the usually high-profile Aurora and her fiancé, Julian Sterling, hit the trending topic in a highly dramatic fashion. The wealthy individual who had previously purchased Aurora's swan painting for a transaction price of $170 million publicly reported them. Julian Sterling, heir to the Sterling Group, and his fiancée, Aurora, had been conducting money laundering transactions under the guise of art auctions and collections. The wealthy individual had come seeking their reputation. Who would have thought that out of the $170 million invested, only over $20 million actually returned to his hands? Knowing his financial chain was broken and he couldn't protect himself, the wealthy individual simply exposed the entire group. As the incident continued to escalate, online discussions grew more intense. It turned out there had never been a rich girl falling for a struggling artist romance trope, only transactions orchestrated by money and capital, every artwork, but because of backroom deals. And the reason the eldest son of the Sterling family chose Aurora was simply because Aurora's circumstances at the time were sufficiently dire, and she herself was naive enough. A naive, arrogant, and self-important fool was the easiest to manipulate. For several years, they had lived peacefully, with no further interaction. It wasn't until Julian Sterling misused funds that were never meant to be touched this time that the situation spiraled into an irreversible state. It wasn't until the official announcement was made that I suddenly understood what Skylar had told me that day. Aurora's former supporters quickly turned against her. The curses and insults were even worse than what I had faced before. I always knew there were shady dealings in the art world, but I never imagined them to be this disgusting. That Aurora has always been disgusting. She even incited others to cyberbullying her ex before, and then pretended to be innocent afterward. I heard her ex, Ethan, loyally stayed by her side for 5 years. I really felt for him, don't forget. She even used her platform for a personal vendetta to make Ethan kneel at the competition. It was unbearable to watch. Just die. Let her die already. People like her are a waste of food. 6 months later, I was once again caught in a maelstrom of public opinion. Although every message was a clarification of the previous defamation, I didn't feel happy in the slightest. If I could, I didn't want to be the subject of others' gossip. I just want to be myself. A week later, under Skylar's guidance, I completed my final submission for the Starlight competition. Aurora, in prison, asked to see me. I thought for a moment and accepted the invitation. On the day I went, for some reason, I made a batch of corn and pork homemade dumplings and carried them in a thermos. Through the meeting room window, I saw Aurora once again. Her hair had been shaved into a uniform buzz cut, her hands were cuffed with handcuffs, and her elegant dress had been replaced by an orange uniform vest. I picked up the microphone, my face calm as I looked at her across the window, and after a moment's thought, said, "Are you okay?" "Yes, I am doing very well," Aurora said, smiling quite serenely through the window. "Being here, my heart is at peace, and my appetite has improved significantly. That's good. I brought some food for you. The prison guards will deliver it to you shortly." "Thank you," Aurora said, lowering her head and pressing her lips together. "But, I am sorry. It's nothing. What happened between us is in the past." "No, I am still sorry." Aurora looked up, her forced smile already streaked with tears. "I am sorry. I ultimately failed you for 5 years. I am sorry. In the end, I am still left with nothing. I am sorry. I didn't fulfill a single promise I made to you. I am sorry. I truly didn't deserve someone as good as you. I am sorry. It was me. Always reaching for the impossible, never thinking about being grounded. I am sorry. It was me who lost you. With each sentence she spoke, countless tears streamed from her eyelids. Through the window, she wanted to get closer to me, but could only press against the window, futilely pounding on it. I held the phone, unsure how to respond. A heart that has died won't revive, even with repentance. Perhaps I had been silent for too long, or perhaps the visitation time was almost up. Aurora stopped her confession, replacing it with that forced smile again. Ethan, you are the best person in the world, and you will surely live the happiest life. I could hear the tremor in Aurora's voice, and discern the deeper meaning in her words, but I calmly hung up the phone. I knew that those who are meant to leave cannot be stopped. That night, Aurora committed suicide by cutting her wrists in prison. I looked at the breaking news from that morning, touching the still faint scar on my wrist. Even I had hesitated, when the sharp utility knife sliced across. What kind of absolute determination must a person have to bite through their own artery with their teeth? I understood Aurora. She couldn't accept the idea of her remaining life being one where she could only linger on. She was an extreme perfectionist. Anything imperfect had to be destroyed without hesitation. Just like the artwork, fate can be so strange at times. It always turns upside down in an instant. Within just a few months, Aurora died, the renowned. I successfully passed the final round of the Starlight competition, and was about to embark on a world tour. On the day of my departure, I received an overseas package. The package contained a platinum inlaid necklace, seemingly custom-made by Aurora before her death. I recognized the pendant on the necklace. It was the Star of Bethlehem, from the top of the Christmas tree that Aurora had shattered on Christmas Eve 3 years ago. A thin card also came with the package. It read, I am sorry, but I can't stop loving you. I looked at the pendant for a long time. In the end, I didn't put it in my bags for the upcoming trip. I still remember that freshman year of high school, the first time I walked into the high school art classroom. Aurora lent me an unopened tube of white paint. The girl, wearing a simple white dress, smiled radiantly in the sunlight. In that instant, the young man's heart skipped a beat. Years later, the young man died on a winter night with only 80 cents left in his account. I think I will live a good life, no matter who enters or leaves this world.